All right, all of you wonderful freedom-loving men and women, boys and girls, welcome to Mission Critical Podcast. This is episode 41. And if you're watching or listening to this podcast, you are the resistance. We say it every time. We mean it every time because as the title of this video, Stranger Things, shit's getting crazy out there. And if you think it's all going to be hunky-dory, God bless you. I hope you're right. Only one of us can be. I hope it's you, but I think it's me. And that's what we got for the lighting here tonight. Just doing a little bit crazy, having a little bit of fun because, yeah, there's just weird shit going on. Hey, and as you notice, Redbeard in all of his red-bearded glory isn't here because Redbeard, he's got the black lung and he's down for the count. Now, we might see him pop up near the end, but if not, I've got a special guest appearance by somebody who's going to Redbeard would be impressed, but we'll save that for the end, very end, if we don't get the real Redbeard here. But I always screw that up. But over here to my, well, on my screen, it's to my right, whatever, but stage left, however they say that, we've got the always popular, the always intelligent and fun to have on the show, Better Call Paul. Paul, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I think, Stranger Things and Salt and Pepper. I mean, there's no Redbeard today.
So. Oh, I got that. I didn't get that at first. A little salt and a little pepper. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You've got more pepper in your beard. I think I've got more just salt, and I'm not supposed to eat salt. So, I don't know what to say about that. Hey, jumping right into it. We're going to do this a little different. We're just having some fun. Again, it's the beginning of a new year. And as the title of this video says it all, Stranger Things, crazy things, what the hell is going on? So BCP and myself, we're going to try to hold down the fort. We're going to try to do Redbeard and everybody else proud. Oh, and I guess on that note, we might have some folks pop in, but it's just beginning of the year, crazy and schedules and all that kind of stuff. But we might have a couple of our the other four horsemen or our regulars pop in. But otherwise, you're stuck with me and Better Call Paul, Salt and Pepper. Dude, I should have already had. I hate to say this, Paul. I should have had a. I should have had a video already prepped for because wasn't that a band, Salt and Pepper or something, or am I getting that wrong?
Yeah.
Was there a band called Salt and Pepper?
Right.
No, was it? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, speaking of bands, though, before we jump into this, and everybody, we're obviously having a little bit of fun, but part of the fun is over on my Centerline System side. I had one of my customers. We were talking. Guy's a great customer. Chris, I'll say his first name. I don't want to say his full name without all of his permissions. But Chris sent me a link. We were talking one day, and he was, he was talking about music. What kind of music and da da da. And then he said, "Oh, check me and my band out." And there's a band he's a part of. I don't know if it's his band, so I don't want to I don't want to misspeak. But he sent me a link. And you know what it's like. And it was funny because I just talked about watching live music or listening to more music in my life. And then Chris sends us over. But when he described it, I was like, oh, okay. Just made it sound like a bunch of dudes who love, heavy metal and 80s metal and just playing a little side gig. I'm going to share this with you, boys and girls. And I'm here to tell you, I think Chris totally undersold himself because this is pretty badass. And then so leave a comment below. We're in the process, but we already have permission from Chris and the whole band. We can use this music. So we're kind of looking at some intros and some riffs. And then when I get off my lazy ass, I'll make a little title card intro thing, where the first, couple minutes, or maybe we'll do that on the live streams. I don't know. But you guys, I'm going to disappear for a second, but you guys tell me what you think. I'm going to play just a couple seconds of the opening music, which I really like, by Chris and his band Neon Dead, and I'll leave a link to this. I'll share this whole link here, obviously in the title card when we got the video uploaded. But here we go. And their band is called Thrum, THRUMM. And yeah, check this out. Yeah. I don't know, boys and girls, leave a comment. If you're like, oh, I hate that type of music. Okay, yeah, maybe. But for an intro card or an outro card, BCP, what do you think, sir? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I listened to it and I thought it's a great and fitting intro at least. And whether you like that type of music or not, it's fitting for us.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And then I just gotta do a quick little shout out here. Just give me 1 second. I'm just looking at something off camera. Come on now. Why is it not? Anybody else notice that sometimes YouTube shares stuff with you? And like, so now I'm looking at it because on that link, you'll see what the tracks are. And there's 2 tracks that I really like. Well, Neon Dead is really good. And the other one, it's going to escape me, but it's kind of a little bit of a longer name, but it's about like the death of tomorrow or waking up tomorrow. Why is that not showing up over on YouTube? Anyway, so I'll have the link to these guys in the video. And we're still figuring some stuff out. But yeah, hopefully in the future, we'll have that as an intro card or an outro card for Mission Critical. And maybe not, I got to get with these guys because there's a couple other really good riffs too. So again, Chris and all the other guys over at Thrum or Throom, however you guys say it. But I really liked it. And I'll just share something because when I was talking to Chris, actually it was about some other stuff. But when I finally got to listen to that video, just like so many other people, I was having a shitty day, a crazy day. And I was like, well, I'm just going to listen to this in the background. So again, I'm thinking it's a bunch of guys doing their garage band stuff. And I immediately had a huge smile on my face. I was like, what the hell? And it's a short, that EP is like about, that album's like 40 minutes long. I think it's 4 tracks, or maybe it's 6 tracks. But anyway, it was really cool. So really huge shout out to Chris. And I'm just also sharing that as a huge shout out to anyone else. Dude, sometimes it's all about just making somebody laugh or putting a smile on somebody's face. And then next thing you know, your spirits can be lifted and elevated. And what was looking like was going to be a shitty day turned into a really fun and awesome day. So huge shout out. And I hope everybody else gets to experience something like that in their life recently, in the not too distant past or or maybe even tomorrow or tonight when you watch this video. All right, BCP. We were going to
before we go on, I just want to make sure we're clear. It is Salt and Pepper, not Salt and Pepper.
That's what it was. Salt and Pepper. Yeah.
I don't want us to get beat up for that.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. No, you're right. It was Salt and Pepper. So, hey, we were going to do the Mad Minute and we were talking about this, but there's so many mad things going on. We decided to take our Mad Minutes and split them out into the whole podcast. So again, whether we call it, shit's getting crazy or Stranger Things, whatever, but we'll have a title like that for tonight. But the first thing we're going to kind of talk about, and then you'll see because these events, you can extrapolate into some other events, but what the F is going on in New York with the Hasidic Jews and this tunnel system. And again, I'm not speculating. I don't think there's enough information, but there's just some weirdness going on. And that's kind of, again, how we come up with our title, because we're going to talk about weird things that have real world implications. And then were there aliens in Miami, at that mall in Miami, or what the F was going on with that stuff? So just starting it off, just in the last, what is that, Paul? That's been like 72 hours. I mean, today's Tuesday. That's been like since Saturday, and then there's an explosion in Texas, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's just been some crazy ass shit going on. I've got some things I want to say about the Miami thing. Paul, BCP, do you want to start off on that? What are your thoughts on, for whatever it's worth, on both of those subjects, or take them in their totality of because to me, they both are the same story. Like, what the hell is going on here? This is just effing weird.
Yeah, and me, Mark, that I am a skeptic when it comes to aliens. I believe most of the stuff that we see is possibly military for some country, but I'm not a denier either. At the same time, we have, was it 60 to 70 cop cars show up in a mall, and they arrested some kids for fighting. And that was the story they gave us. So, okay, what that tells me is you guys are nuts. Because if you think we believe this, maybe it was something else. Maybe it was, an exercise, a shooter response, something like that, right? So that they, ever since they've had other issues down there, maybe they implemented a policy where, we're not going to do what we've seen in other states, where the cops are sitting back doing nothing and, just waiting for the whole event to occur. In this case, they said, we're coming full force and coming in. Now, to be clear, the whole story makes no sense. And the lack of video and the fact that some people have video with these shadow creatures of some sort. Look, if we had more angles, then I might agree that it's not an alien. But you know what? There's no video. Why is there no? Everybody has a cell phone. Mark, you and I talked about that earlier, and that's your thing here. What do you think about that?
Well, so that's one of the areas where I am probably the most. I'm just like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. Like everybody has a video, even like, and unfortunately, even when we're seeing somebody being victimized, how do we even see that? Because some individual has a video and feels like I'm going to videotape this as opposed to becoming involved. Or like our last episode, everybody's seeing that beautiful dropping of the ball New Year's Eve in France. And all it is a picture of everybody with their cell phones. Nobody's actually in the moment living it. So to that point, if we acknowledge that, hey, look, young kids today, they're all over this. And if you're out there at an open air mall, mixing it up, kind of talking smack with a rival gang or, a bunch of like, a rival faction at school, and whether you're in a fight or shooting fireworks at each other, damn it, that would be all over TikTok. Like, don't you think, Paul? I mean, that's so to me,
Yeah.
I'm automatically like, and then there was no one else filming it, and that hasn't been uploaded to TikTok. So my first sniff test is, how is this not all over social media? Because that's not who we are in today's day and age. We are everybody. I shouldn't say everybody, but a large number of people are addicted to their freaking phones, and they would have been filming that and uploading that and live streaming that right then and there. So that already doesn't make any effing sense to me.
No. And that's the point you made to me earlier. There's no video. I mean, you could walk down the street and, drop your phone and somebody's probably videotaping you. I know that's kind of extreme. Somebody always has a video of something. Like you said, you're telling me there's nobody in that mall that had a video. Did they block it? We can get into the technology methods that they use. Did they confiscate? I don't think they confiscated all the devices, because it would have made the news. People would have complained. I mean, they can't arrest everybody, right? They only arrested 4 people.
Well, and you can't go
in. Stinks.
And the other thing that would have made the news is, I'm hearing rumors that, because again, I don't think anyone's disputing this part. There was like an incredible police presence, 60 to 70 police, squad cars. So depending, that's either 60 to 70 officers, or that's 120 to 140 officers, depending if they're single cars or doubled up, and I don't know enough about Miami-Dade or Miami, Metro, but it's at least 60 to 70 or up to, 120, 140 people. And none of this, and again, how is this we're not seeing any of these. I just, and so I find that incredulous. And I think where I was also going, the other thing that I find incredulous, which you mentioned, which is if it was an exercise, right? Hey, we've got a new SOP, a standard operating procedure, a new protocol for how we deal with this type of situation or that type of situation. How has that not been? We haven't even seen that in any type of an official press release, from them. The only press release that came from them, supposedly, now maybe there's been one since I heard this, which was, they just did a big LOL, like LOL, aliens at the mall. So in other words, they didn't do their job as law enforcement. Like, hey, look, we represent you. We work for you. We're here to protect and serve the community. We understand that some people there's rumors abounding, or there's, and this is causing maybe some anxiety or whatever, both in our community and perhaps nationally. We're here to tell you, we're going to share body cam footage from all of our officers. We did not go and confiscate or tell people to delete their phones. And that's where I was kind of going. The other one, Paul, is because if that would have happened, that would have been all over the place too. Because you have all the right to film in public that you want, and police officers that, there would have been a video of that. There would have been a video of cops going up to somebody, telling them to delete everything off of their phone or confiscating their phones. And there would have been, 10 other people saying, oh, hell no, you're not taking my phone. And they would have been videotaping that. So we're not even seeing that. So I think that kind of disproves one thing on one side, but it's just so suspect. Like, and maybe he'll come on, and I'm going to kick this over to you. But Blake and I were talking, and you're like, oh, what is the size of that department? How in the hell were there that many officers that quickly, in that much force? And so I'm kicking it back to you for everybody to hear, because maybe it was an exercise, but then why not come out and say we were already doing it, or this was part of an exercise, or kind of see where I'm going? Why would you not actually have that type of commentary?
Yeah, I think so Paul's opinion, right? That tells me it's an obvious mass shooter exercise, because no one took pictures because there was nothing to see. Now, the one video shows, I'll agree, it looks like a shadow alien. Okay, but this tells me that that the government had an exercise in place because a mass shooting was reported, and a shooting at the mall. They don't want that kind of stuff again. And I'm kind of encouraged by that. And whoever made that decision to implement that kind of SOP, I support that. Right? Get the cops out there. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. Worst thing you wasted was gas. And maybe you could save lives that way. So I'm again, armed guards in schools and stuff, we can discuss that another time. But in this specific situation, to me, we can talk about the aliens because it's still, I know it's more interesting, honestly, but and it's still not ruled out. It's still not ruled out because maybe the aliens use one of them zappers and now all the phones are off their videos.
Well, and we had the whole thing out, and I'm going to probably get this wrong a little bit. I think it was Phoenix, but I think it was Arizona. And this was just a month or two ago where, from a body cam, a police officer body cam, you see this light in the sky, and then they get a 911 call, hey, there's these things in my backyard, so I'm just throwing this out there, just devil's advocate. Is it possible that there were some people doing a prank? Maybe these kids were causing a fight, throwing, things, and then somebody, got their hands on some giant, 8-foot, 10-foot tall alien thing, or maybe somebody in the mall had that as part of like their show or their display for their store. And we're like, there's a lot of possibilities out there that haven't been, explored, and maybe, but but I'm bringing it back over to you, BCP, because it's the lack of that. Like, so, so I guess in a weird way, I want to take the other side of the coin, so there's a lack of actual responsible and professional response, or commentary or statements from the police department or from other, local leaders or whatever that we quote unquote are supposed to look to, for public safety. Okay. Well, that seems odd to me again. And again, and even if you were right in it, whether it was a training exercise, well, then there should have been some type of public release for them. Hey, tonight we're going to be conducting an exercise here today. And there would have been film coverage of that, because the exercise wouldn't have been, can you have 60 squad cars drive there as fast as possible? I mean, that's not much of you're going to have to really have a hard time justifying that as your exercise. But 60 squad cars as part of your new, SOP, your standing operating procedures, driving there at a planned exercise, but then the exercise would have been taking place. And there's no video or commentary on that either. So I'm just still like, I'm even having a hard time. If that is the legitimate truth, then why hasn't it just been clearly and publicly stated? Why leave it ambiguous, which only then feeds into conspiracy theory, feeds into anxiety, and it feeds into, people just doing weird shit on the internet, which is what's going on right now.
Yeah, I don't think it was a training exercise. Let me be clear there. I absolutely think it was a plan in place in the event of a mass shooter reporting. And it's Paul's opinion. I have no inside knowledge. I don't live anywhere near Florida, so I have no connections to anybody down there. And it just, just my analysis of it is that it was an actual incident that occurred, and they responded. And fortunately, it was only a bunch of kids fighting, and I'm happy for that. See, some people think, oh yeah, we wish for that stuff. No. We want to avoid those situations.
Yeah. I think that should go without saying, but that's a great point.
But you have to say it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're like, duh. It's obviously it's going to be way better if a couple kids threw some punches as opposed to, some other kid all jacked up on whatever, pharmaceutical drugs are being pumped into everybody today, and commits an atrocity. And and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up, but I guess we are going to talk about that type of subject in an upcoming live stream. So everybody just stay tuned to that, because the whole so say again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I'm already starting, but we'll just keep big pharma out of this episode. Well, actually, and maybe I shouldn't though, because I guess, Paul, my other question going back over to you is, okay, so so they've got a new SOP, and this is what their policy is going to be. Whenever they think they're in a mass casualty event, mass shooter, that they're going to respond with just overwhelming force like that, which is really impressive. I mean, like, that's better than the U.S. Army or Delta Force can do, being that Johnny on the spot. Which then, but I think, and this isn't my my original thought, this came from Blake. Well, then why can't you do that on every other? Then again, then it's a matter of math and proportionality. Hey, there's a break-in at this house, and there's somebody, it's an armed robbery, the type of thing. Well, why aren't there 4 squad cars every time that happens? Hey, there was a murder or gunshots at this location. Then why aren't there 4 or 10 squad cars when that happens? You see what I'm saying? It's like, if you're going to be able to coordinate and train your department to be able to be that responsive and that Johnny on the spot, and then show up with that many resources that quickly, then why in the hell can't you do it any other time when there's some other crime? And I'll break it down to crimes against persons. I won't even talk about somebody stole your bike. I'm talking about a crime against person, like an assault, a robbery, that type of thing. Paul, so
I think this is all about protecting the brass. Right. I mean, it's the media is going to expose something, so that, if they have an event again in those areas over and over again, Paul's opinion, then, it looks bad on them. So they want to make sure they put all their assets into something that could cause them, to be forced to resign, or, you don't have something in place. This person, whoever it was, those people, whoever they were, that put this in place, I applaud them. So don't get me wrong, that they have a plan in place, because if it was real, it would have been, I believe, at least mostly successful. I don't know. But, it's all about what the media reports. And the media is reporting these things that if, there was a mass shooting here, mass shooting there, and the cops did nothing. And this time there was a report and the cops did a lot, and nothing had to happen. That's what we want, right? We want armed guards in schools. We want armed guards everywhere that there are people that are vulnerable. And, that's really, so if this is working that way, I'm content with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So again, and I hope anyone watching, or even, the men and women of that department, or that, sheriff's department, or that just that municipality, of course, BCP is 100% right. We want their society to start functioning that way. If I'm paying tax dollars, so some people get to drive around, a vehicle, and, all these things provided by us for the taxpayers, but with the express purpose and given some authorities and in authorizations that, in that capacity they have, that others don't. We want to see that actually respond properly and do things that actually then, really stands up to the motto of to serve and protect, right? So you're absolutely right. But now let me just throw one last little thing on. With all of this other craziness that's going on, I mean, you take this everywhere from all the way back to, the Chinese spy balloon, and, and all the obfuscation that was going on then. There was a lot of media outlets that didn't want to say it was a balloon, and then we don't know, it's a UAP, and then so you got this whole UAP side of it. Where did aliens come from in this whole mess? Again, where's the video from just the standard person that would see this, and who would be videotaping immediately, whether it was a guy in a costume or whatever the case is. So we're absent all the normal social media from the end user individual video. We're not seeing any of that. You got maybe it is a positive thing, and the police department implemented a new, policy, a new set of procedures. And this is how they're going to respond to anything that is perceived as a mass casualty, a potentially mass casualty event. What if it was just maybe a field test of a new technology? Just think of like sound, technology and microwave. And I'm not sharing any secrets. This is stuff that's been advancing way since I've been out of both the military and the agency. But we know these things are out there. I mean, you look at I think they even have a name for it. Whatever happened to our personnel down in Havana, like I think they call it the Cuban effect or something like that. But I mean, everybody kind of postulates that, yeah, there was probably some type of new sound weapon or whatever, that was used against our personnel, caused them to get sick, whatever. And we see this is all over the internet. I'm not, again, do your own research. You'll see Raytheon showing off their version of this crowd dispersal, device or whatever. What if this was like nothing more than, because you got to do a field test, right? You've done all your tests, and then you do your tests in your controlled environments. But at some point in time, if you have the ability to do it, what you want to do is any type of serious body that deals in these type of affairs. And I'm talking about either law enforcement or defense, military, intelligence. You're going to want a real world field test of it in the real world. What if this was just a real world field test of a new technology and everybody just succumbed to mass hysteria? So there's no video evidence of any of this stuff, but everybody's talking about there was 8 to 10 foot tall aliens. And because of some new technology, that's what, and everything of these natures, to include medicine, they affect people, every person a little bit differently. Some people a lot differently. What if this was nothing more than that, Paul? What if it was nothing more than like, I know that sounds tinfoil hat, but it goes into everything about like what I just said. And there's and shit, we're not even touching the tip of the spear when it comes to tinfoil hats, but which have been proven to be true. But what if it was nothing more than that? What if our government is so far gone? And I wish Redbeard was here, because we'll talk about cadmium sulfide. Look, if you don't think our government has conducted tests against an unwitting civilian population, dude, just go look up cadmium sulfide. Look back in the 50s and 60s. They were spraying this over St. Louis, Minneapolis. They wanted to test wind patterns. They wanted to be able to see what this stuff was happening. And people were Tuskegee, World War II. I mean, MK Ultra. So why is that maybe? And I'm just throwing this out there. I have no proof of it. It was actually Blake's idea again, because I was like on the side of like, well, without this footage, I'm less inclined to believe anything happened, because where is all the videos, like what you started off with? And that's where I'm going with this. Well, what if there's no videos because it actually never happened, even though that's what people are reporting?
Yeah, but I do want to make one last statement on the other part of this. And the good thing here was they made arrests and no one was shot. Either way, on either side, from a perpetrator or not, which tells me that this again, it stinks. So, no videos.
But hang on. But then why wouldn't the police department or the sheriff's department just make a very clear and concise public statement that, again, their job isn't to stir up the pot, and everybody's got a right to their own opinion and free speech,
right?
But but like, hey, everybody calm down. No, this is our SOP. This is how we're doing it. Matter of fact, bad guys beware, because we're going to show up in force, and we're going to crush you. We're going to stop you, right? And this was a great example to your point, Paul. See, this is our new policy. Look at how this fight didn't get out of hand. We apologize if somehow through all this confusion, some crazy people are talking about aliens, but we'll share all of our our officers, the body cam footage from our officers, our squad car, whatever it is. That wasn't what happened. It really was this. Kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's my whole point. But is that they did not make any kind of they made arrests. They didn't do any shootings. Nobody shot anyone there. Why would they hide this? This is where I start getting into the conspiracy theory part, which honestly, I know it comes with conspiracy theorists. No, I mean we have pictures of somebody got it, but no one else got it. Right. So now I'm to the point where, okay, it may have been an exercise, but maybe some other crap was going on there. This is all possible. Anything's possible. I don't rule anything out. Right. I said, I'm skeptical, but why isn't there anything? Why don't we have not a single video posted, or the media is covering up for something else, which is possible. TikTok doesn't ban anything. right? They would if it was right wing.
Yeah, well, yeah. If it went against the CCP, it would not be. It would be verboten.
Yeah. So okay, good point. Maybe this was a CCP exercise.
Seriously, that's kind of why I threw that out there. Maybe it's just nothing more than a disinformation campaign using social media to get everybody to sit and talk about this shit. So we're not looking at another spy balloon or the military age men, the unconventional warfare type guys coming across our border, or where no one's talking about the Corona labs out in California, and or maybe whatever you want to call those, but those were obviously some type of biological warfare. Something strange was going on. No one wants to talk about that. Hell, I'll even throw this in there. What about that guy from Virginia and that whole his house exploded thing? And that made some internet rounds as well. And I've seen some of the footage that people are like, hey, check this out and check this out. And I'm going to save that. Maybe we'll bring that up in a live stream. But sure as shit, I'm watching that video and I can see a reflection here. And then I can see another reflection in this other area where there's got to be something that reflects. And then here. And it's all right before the explosion. And then those lights are gone. And I'm just like, okay, that is odd. Something's not right there. If this was a natural event that took place in this guy's house, gas leak, whatever the case is, we wouldn't have seen that. But it sure as hell does seem to be some type of precursor. And then boom, the explosion, and then those reflections are gone. So, or it could have been, to your point, we don't know what we don't know. Hey, look, somebody could actually, apply physics. Like, no, there was a cop and one car right here who turned his flashlight on, and that reflection, because of the angle, reflected off this, and that got caught on this other thing over here, and then it got caught here, and it just coincidentally happened milliseconds before the explosion. Now, I think what some people were going in the crazy things, in the tinfoil hat stuff, some people were, will reference that to, like God, I don't believe in coincidence. And if if you're in the military and if you're painting a target, depending on the device, and again, I've been out of that loop for a while, so the devices I used back then, I'm sure they've been advanced and they're very different now. But so you're lasing a target, and there's a code. You're using a code. The whatever the device is, whether it's a missile or a guided bomb, but that package there is linking up and it's picking up that signal. Everything coincides, and then and looking, I'm not going to lie, Uncle Sugar is really good. I mean, we are very precise in that. Are those reflections something to do with a target being painted or lased? Well, most of that stuff's in IR and it's not in the visible spectrum, because, then you would just see that laser beam going back to where that guy, in his hide position was located, and you drop artillery on him or shoot at him or something like that, and, disrupt him. So then, to either stop the drop or to make the drop, miss, due to error. So, but Paul, I'm bringing that up but we have these weird things happening, and in all of these cases, we have, you take even mass shootings, and a lot, some of the recent mass shootings, and there's this absence of any public, a legitimate statement. It's always bullshit, or it's like, remember that the governor of Arizona back during the Arizona lights, Fife, I can't remember his last name, Fife something. He did that little stunt, and he had the guy come out, and, the alien, we found the people that did, but that's what you get from a government right now, is and that's what supposedly the press release is like, oh yeah, LOL, hey, you didn't answer any of our questions. You haven't assuaged anyone's concerns. And, when the governor or a chief of police or the spokesperson, whatever it is, comes out and then makes such a dismissive comment, I think that only fuels the fire of, well, okay, well then it's got to be something else, because you guys aren't taking this seriously, or you're not taking our concerns seriously. So how much do you think, if any, could that have to play here? And I knew I threw that Virginia bombing in there because that's some crazy shit that suddenly has disappeared. No one's talking about that either, so.
Yeah, again, if you listen to me, I'm a skeptic of all the conspiracy theories, although they all end up coming true. So I end up being wrong every time. So I think that the Virginia bomb, I believe he was caught. He knew they were coming. He blew himself up. Now, that would explain why there is no story here. Am I open to the fact that it looks really weird that they went in there and they try to, sure. I'm open to that, but I think he blew himself up. he knew he was toast, and there was some other issues going on there. And this ends up being my side. So I tried. My whole goal is when I see something that seems weird, I want to present every possible alternative, so that I know that if that conspiracy theory is true, that I feel comfortable with that. I don't just jump on anything, and I'm not saying anybody else here does either. No one does, but I'm a severe skeptic, and I like to make sure that that I do that. And you look at again, back to the aliens, just real quick. I'll tell you what, that video kind of scares me. It does. I think I have an answer, but I don't. I definitely do not have an answer there. But again, the media and politicians are absolutely just, it's both parties. I've already said that before. Both parties are hiding stuff from us left and right. They blatantly lie to our faces about things. And, that makes it tough. Who do we trust? We have to trust each other. That's really what we have to do.
Well, and I think one of the ways to do that is, hopefully you're watching this podcast or listening to it, but hopefully what your takeaway is, you should be going out, and if you know about these subjects, or you find, alternative media sources where you can hear and learn about these subjects, and then do not be afraid about having these conversations with your friends and family. These are legitimate questions. Hey, why did the sheriff's department or the police department, why did they make, why were there 70 cars there? Why did they, these are fair questions. That doesn't make you a conspiracy theory nut. It's like, hey, could you just explain this? Maybe if I heard a good, cogent, rational, well, and see, and we're so skimming over this, because then apparently a large swath of the community lost power during that same period of time. Okay, see how these little coincidences are starting to add up, and none of that starts making sense. So in the absence of an informed public commentary, well, then people are going to start jumping to their own conclusions. Like, hey, this was going on at the same time that happened. You're trying to tell me, while 70, squad cars were responding to this mall, 60,000 people in this surrounding area all lost power at the, that's a lot of coincidence going on there. So I don't know. I think that's fair. Hey, I got to
go back to Die Hard there. Maybe the FBI cut the power.
Exactly. Right. So, but, are you that trigger happy where you're there and it's obviously some kids don't, because you should be, experienced enough. They're like, that's not gunshot, gunfire. That's fireworks,
Yeah.
And now I'm talking to somebody and it's like, yeah, there was a band of 6 kids over here and 4 kids over there, and then you should be disseminating that information, kids, to your point, it could still be violent. It could still be a shooting, people could still be in jeopardy. But it's no longer, that you're taking it down. Well, maybe you're not taking it down a notch, but you're putting it into a different category of response. Your brain would start thinking about it a little bit differently at that point. Hey, but I got a quick question for you, because so Al Roker, you want to tell me about that? I don't know if I just found it.
Recently, he had an issue where he told some crazy joke during New Year's Eve. And then it brought back all the history of him. And there's one video, I think it's back from 2012, so it's old, where Al Roker is talking to Matt Lauer and Guthrie. I can't remember, Savannah Guthrie. And she says something about the Holy Ghost. And Al Roker does a 15-second, head shift and stare. And even CNN called it out back then. Anderson Cooper, there's a video of Anderson Cooper pointing out that it was like, and the other people were saying maybe the Holy Ghost was his code, or keyword, whatever you want to call it. And
so
I just
look, and I'm here to tell you, this is how ScrewTube just sucks. I mean, almost everything is from Inside Edition or what is that, America Today or Good Morning, whatever that Today show is used on, right? So I only see 2 videos out of I already scrolled down through at least 20 videos. I see 2 videos that even reference it. And here's a short one. Anderson Cooper mocks Al Roker's frozen pose. Is that what you're
it.
trying to talk about?
Good. You got it.
Okay. Is that worth pulling up? Should I pull that up? Does that
absolutely
help?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Unless
so
CNN's going to sue you.
Why? Why are they going to sue me? I hope they don't sue. Why would they sue me? Well, hey, dude, but this goes into what we're talking about. Is there something else at play, right? You can talk MK Ultra, you can sonic weapons, we don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And I'm here to tell you, there's a shit ton of, if you could develop a weapon that could actually cause mass psychosis and people to see things that aren't there, I mean, that would be pretty powerful. Or to like lose the will to fight or to shit themselves, whatever it is. That actually is that's a very powerful technology. So you don't think countries are working on that, besides ours? So, okay, here I got Anderson Cooper up. And let me just see here. I didn't screw anything up. Okay, here we go. I'm going to play it. It's just a couple minutes long. Tell me if I need to fast forward, but here we go.
Time now for the ridiculous. You've heard of Where in the World is Matt Lauer? Well, tonight we're asking, what in the world is up with Al Roker? And I asked this question with the utmost admiration and affection for Al Roker. I really like the guy. Now, a few days ago on the Today Show, Savannah Guthrie and Matt Lauer were talking about an upcoming performance from Lionel Richie. Savannah Guthrie.
I'm just going to try to fast forward through some of this. You can go watch this. I'll put all these links in the video.
Yeah,
I actually want to
right there. Yeah.
That's exactly how you have to have a certain amount of distance between the bodies in junior high.
Yes, like they say in Catholic school, leave room for the Holy Ghost. Anyway, there is a lot of memories today, actually. It's a big day in music history.
35 years ago today, Elvis Presley passed away, the king of rock and roll. And as Mark Cohn says in his great song, Walking in Memphis, there's a pretty little thing waiting for the king down in the jungle room. Natalie Morales.
Now,
okay.
Yeah.
That was just effing weird. On one hand, I thought at first he was just looking at the camera, making a funny face. But if that's what he did, got to give him props because he held that for like, what was that, 10 seconds? Like
the official number is 17 seconds.
Holy crap.
And he did say that he had a bet with somebody. So I'm not trying to be, again, this is something that's 10 years, 11 years old. But the fact that he was saying weird stuff and his jokes during New Year's Eve this year, it brought all this stuff back up. But I'll tell you what, if he did that on purpose, props to him. That was awesome. It made it look like he was given a trigger word and just was. I couldn't never get into a staring contest with Al Roker. That's for sure. And somebody else said that. That's not new to me. I'm just stealing stuff from other people that I listen to. But seriously, that's a little freaky stuff.
Well, but I like what you just said. If he did that, if that really was a joke, like if he was, whatever, like hey, Al, dude, it'd be funny if you just sat and stared at the monitor, when it's not your segment, just stare at it with a goofy face for 20 seconds or whatever. Okay. That would be pretty freaky, right? But it would be funny as hell though too. But I think that would make him a goat. Like, okay, dude, that's just badass. You're supposed to be smiling and looking at everybody and doing your online or your live performance, and instead you just go.
That would assume that Guthrie was scripted to say Holy Ghost, but that absolutely looked completely natural. The dance and the other thing. So.
But on a different note, what was not natural was her interaction with that other clown. I don't know what that guy's name is.
Yeah, it's Matt Lauer. That was the Catholic girl dance, right? That's what she's saying. They have to have room for the Holy Ghost in between to get that. Yeah.
That whole thing was just straight up awkward. That's all that was.
It was a middle school dance. It was a middle school dance.
Okay,
right? You want those kids to be apart. But hey. That's my upbringing. I get it. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's absolutely weird.
But that guy's just I don't know. There's just something wrong with that other guy too. Just on
Oh, no.
like on just social interaction level. I don't know. Or they're trying too hard to be all funny. I don't know what it is, but that was
Matt Lauer was Me Too'd. So, there's no.
What about that? That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was like didn't he have like an evil scientist little button to lock his door from his desk or some shit like that?
I can't speak for that. I won't.
Well, I think that's what the claim was. But there was some weird shit like that. You never, something like that. Yeah, but he did. Yeah, there was some accusations. Hey, go do your own research. We don't know what they are. I don't really. I really have. I don't even know what that guy's name was until this. And yeah, I'm sure I've seen him on TV somewhere, sometime. And I got 0 F's to give about those people. So whatever. What do I know? Hey, but here's another thing I don't know. That's kind of starting to make the getting into conversation. And again, and when people don't come out and get in front of this and provide intelligent, cogent, well-articulated and well-documented, provable, right? Statements that can be proven. They're proven objectively, right? Whether that's scientifically or with multiple witnesses, and even that, I know somebody would be like, well, multiple witnesses can be faked. Yes, you're absolutely right. I get that. But why don't we move it into the, and I don't, well, who cares if we get in a little trouble? Why don't we move this over to the Epstein situation right now, both in terms of the quote unquote client list, where you think that's going, and and then now that they've released some photos, and just like we just said about the mall in Florida, none of that doesn't add up. And I'm not even I'm not a forensic guy. I'm not a coroner, and I'm like, well, how would that happen? I mean, like, if you were hanging, that's the term hanging means, your weight's being suspended from a point, and if that point was around your neck and it was secured above you, but the thing above you was actually below how tall you were. So you could always just stand up. So, again, just even the cause of death is already questionable. But then the marks it left, that's questionable, because you would expect to see them at some slight upward angle, unless he somehow was able to levitate himself and then invert himself. Then maybe you would have a straight angle. But I've never heard anything about him being inverted or having some special powers of levitation. But maybe not necessarily focusing on, whether he's dead or, the method of injury was. What are your thoughts on just like, all the crap that's now being spoken and everything going on the Epstein side? What are your thoughts there? More crazy bullshit going on, right? Or something more?
No, I think that a lot of people lost their mind when Megyn Kelly said something about it. You're going to hear from Epstein soon. And the whole media went nuts and said, he's not dead. There's recordings. I mean, that's an obvious thing to me. So he's going to say things in recordings. He had recordings of nastiness. Why wouldn't he have recordings to defend himself in case there was an issue in court?
Hey, can I just throw one thing out there? Because you're talking about now actual physical evidence. And where's the FBI in this? And how are people not fired? How is Ray not come out and defended their TTP, their tactic, technique, and procedure here. So again, we're talking about SOPs, going back to Miami Police Department, Miami-Dade. So, okay, if we believe that they've come up with a new SOP for school mass shootings, mass casualty events, and this is what they do. They just flood the zone with as many cops as they possibly can, as quick as a amount of time. Okay, well then conversely, to what we're talking about here, how is it the FBI, who's supposed to be the premier, law enforcement entity in the United States, sees all the videos? They didn't seize. They witness, they observe, hey, here's all these videos. We'll take some pictures, but the scope of our warrant doesn't cover that. So then we'll just go away for 3 or 4 days, wait for a warrant. Now, mind you, you're already in the middle of executing a warrant. You're already there on legal authorization. You see something that falls out the scope of it, but you're like, to Paul's point, oh, there's fucking videotapes to this stuff too? Oh, hell yeah. And then you go away for a couple, and then suddenly, then you get a warrant 4 days later, and then the lawyers hand you a bunch of video. Like, again, that's just like you're going to tell me that all the cameras didn't work in the cells and all the SOPs and protocols that were established, we suddenly just didn't do today because we just didn't care because it was Taco Tuesday or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's just another area. And see, this is how crazy it is because you just brought that up. And I'm just a stupid freaking, former military, infantry guy. And I'm already like, just like the Georgia Runestones. Hell, somebody comes and blows them up and you don't even investigate. You just remove all the evidence the next day. The next day you just have construction guys come in and take all the way. Dude, there's bomb residue. There's going to be pieces of the bomb and how it was delivered, the packaging. Dude, there's so much information there. And the same thing. Whoa, I'm in the middle of executing a warrant. There's videotapes. Dude, you could just sit there and keep your eyes on it that whole time because you're within the scope of your warrant. You could have gotten a judge on the phone immediately, gotten authorization, and you could have taken all that stuff right then and there. So another thing, like, is our government or our law enforcement and our leadership, are these people just intentionally inept, or is there something more nefarious going on? And when it comes to Epstein, I think there's a shit ton of that's just too crazy to be true, and that's too crazy to be coincidence. And I just gave you one because Paul just got my brain going because that's something I've been trying to wrestle my head with I'm like, tell me again how in the F they did that. Like, that doesn't make that doesn't add up. And I really want somebody to try to explain that to me in a sense and do so in such a way that it actually makes sense from both an intelligence, just being a smart person, being a professional, being a law enforcement officer or an intelligence officer, because I'm here to tell you, there's a huge intelligence side of this Epstein case that, I think people get, but no one's really focused on because I think I think we're afraid to do it. But all right, Paul, I just rambled there for a second, but you just got me going with that whole thing about law enforcement, but on the Epstein side.
Yeah, that's good. Now I want to make it clear that I am a proud American first. And I'm an IT guy second. So I have no experience.
Well, hang on 1 second. And third, not suicidal.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't think I had to go there, Mark. Thanks.
Well, we're talking about something. You better get that out there.
Absolutely none. Absolutely.
And but that goes to our point. And for everybody watching, isn't that just the funny thing? We all make a joke about that now, about, I'm not suicidal, because it's so obvious that something's wrong here in this situation, in this case. Like, that doesn't make any sense. How does a guy who's what is he, 6? Again, don't quote me. He was over 6 feet. He was a tall guy. I saw the pictures of the cell. That bunk, dude, when he stood up.
He was 2 foot tall.
Yeah. How?
It's not possible. No, we can agree on that, absolutely. And I know they show the quote noose and they did cut the rope a little bit, but the whole thing is before we get into the evidence, I'd like to get into the evidence next. I just want to make one point before that. Jimmy Kimmel. Now, he's threatening to go after Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Come on,
Aaron Rodgers has money. I don't, but I don't.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Before you go any further, Aaron Rodgers, we're just poor, just working class people. We're not necessarily on your side, but if Jimmy Kimmel comes after us, could you please, kind of maybe help us out a little bit, for whatever BCP is about to say, please, Aaron Rodgers, save us.
No, so yeah, I agree with you 100%. So I'm not looking for any kind of lawsuits. I'm not accusing anybody directly in any way, right? But I am saying that Aaron Rodgers hinted at something on the Pat McAfee show about Jimmy Kimmel and the Epstein list. Now, let's be clear. What was released was not the Epstein list. It was something from a court case. So none of those people are guilty. Right. And even those that traveled on that plane and may have gone there are not necessarily guilty. They have to be, trying to court of law because that's what we believe in. Right. I don't believe that they should. Now, they're suspect, of course, but they're not guilty yet. We don't do that. We don't try and pull somebody off a ballot for something that he hasn't been convicted of. But Jimmy Kimmel said all this stuff. And I was just listening to him. And he's like, I never did this with Epstein. Jimmy Kimmel never once said, I didn't fly to that island. Not once. So I want him to deny that. I want him to go on the air and say, no, obviously I didn't meet with or fly with Jeffrey Epstein. But I now need to deny whether I flew on his plane and or flew to his island. That's where he goes. And I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan, but I'll tell you what, I support him on a couple things. This is one of them. The other one has something else to do with something else. But, it's crazy. I can't believe. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, honestly, in a sports fan situation, if you're not a Green Bay Packer fan, you hate that guy. So I would say for me to be an Aaron Rodgers fan, it is just a complete turnaround. It just tells me, you know what? He's a like-minded guy. And I want those type of people to be on my side. And that's really what I'm for.
But I like what, again, it just goes into some common sense thing. Like, and I just want to emphasize this, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. We are seeing trends now that, well, you didn't speak out against this, you didn't do that. And we see this happening a lot from in the political class in our society right now, where like people are guilty. Like, I just determined you were guilty, so I just took you off the ballot. You're like, okay, dude, I haven't been convicted of anything, let alone, I haven't even been like charged with anything, so we do have this weird trend, and our society is, letting it go. To some extent, we're going along with it. And that really kind of scares me and bothers me, but saving that. But back to your point, I want to emphasize what you said too. Dude, this isn't the list. This is part of an ongoing, so maybe it's part of the list, whatever. But just because somebody flew there doesn't mean they're guilty of anything, right? Because, hey, there was a robbery in this bank. Okay, well, there was 10 people in the bank at the time, or 3 people visited. Like being a suspect is like, we've got to go down this. We have to eliminate this. We're trying to investigate. Hey, right before the bank was robbed, we saw a black Ford, whatever, Ford 150. We've got you on video showing up 2 days earlier in a black Ford 50, but not just a black Ford 50, but you got a scratch down the rear quarter panel. And in the video right at the robbery, that same Ford F-150 had a scratch in the quarter panel. That's not enough to convict you, but that gives you enough grounds. Like, okay, I'm going to sit and ask you some questions now because you're a suspect. That's all that means. All those names that are on there, those people, not a single one of those people are technically guilty of a damn thing. It has to be proven in a court of law. But then when you go and suddenly the videotape evidence disappears, just like the guards disappeared and the video was shut off in your cell, and you suddenly hang yourself using linen from a bunk that you're taller than, and then the marks on your neck, linen. Think about trying to take bed sheets and whether you weave them or just twist it up so it would actually choke you out. Dude, that's not going to leave a really thin little mark that you would expect that to be. Just look at your hand. Think about how tight you could get linen. That's going to be like, depending on your hand, 2-3 fingers. You would expect to see the bruising much. So again, to me, it just keeps coming back into none of this passes the sniff test, but I just want to also, and then I'll shut up, but I wanted to reiterate your point. No one's guilty of anything until they're actually proven guilty in a court of law. That's how our system works. That's called you're innocent until you're proven guilty. And that applies across the board, across our country, to every American citizen, regardless, period.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Back to me.
Now, as far as Epstein directly, I'm not a medical examiner or anything like that. But I listen to medical examiners that show marks, so I don't have to be one. I can look to Dr. Baden Poopa case guy, that used to be on Fox, and I can trust him because he's an expert in that area. But when it comes to methods of suicide, I have no expertise in that as well, but I do have a knowledge of physics based on education. And I
Yep.
just, look, if they said, if he had the proper marks, maybe he OD'd first, tied himself up, and he knew he was going to OD, and that way he couldn't resist. But he would have had the appropriate marks, so they messed it up. Whoever, man, I'm going to hell. But
No,
they
but
would've
I just want to say that for everybody who's watching. Listen, to your point, you're absolutely right. Look, the mark is thin, very thin. You would have expected that the contusion would have been over a wider area because linen, it's going to be wider. Even just threading that to make it tight, that isn't going to be super simple. And then the angle, like, again, I don't have to be a medical examiner. Like you just said, I have an education and understand physics, and I can understand. And look, I can just look at something and figure out the angle. Well, if he fell down like this and hung himself and the stuff was up here, then the angle, the impact, that point of impact or point of injury would have been in this type of angle. Why is it going straight back this way? And
what are the drug reports? He did not OD. There's no reports of, oh yeah, he took a bunch of drugs and then hung himself. Because that if he did that, that would allow for the 2 foot hanging of whatever he did, 3 foot, whatever, 3-4 feet.
Well, yeah, because he physically would have medicated himself to a position where he physically would have been either, just incapable. Right. Yeah, because he was drugged out, right? Or he was already slipping into unconsciousness, something of that nature. Yep.
Again, I'm not giving any kind of I'm not an educated person in that area. These are Paul's opinions only. But the only way that could have happened, in Paul's opinion, is if he was drugged and just basically passed out, and then suffocated himself.
Yeah.
So then, but why wouldn't they mention that? I mean, it seemed that would have been a simple out. Are the people that are, okay, hypothetically suiciding people that stupid that you couldn't say, oh, well, the autopsy said that he had these drugs in his system and then, he passed out and hung himself? I mean, are they that dumb?
I think it's the
I would say yes.
Nope. I think the answer to that question is, and that's why I just did it. No, I think they're just that evil. I think at some level, just think about it, serial killers, not getting into that. And I'm not a serial killer profiler, but, law enforcement, you can look at this stuff, and people have psychoses, they have tics, they have, oftentimes a serial killer or an arsonist will be in the crowd as the cops or the fire department is there trying to deal with the situation, right? So, so at some weird level, there's a level of narcissism, or, I've got to look at my trophy, my prize. So kind of going, but you're saying, like, well, why isn't there this? Well, because I think these people at this point, dude, the trophy is, I just did this. I did this in front of all of you, and nothing has happened. You guys have no idea, and that also, think about the power of that, because that sends a message. We're talking about people operating at circles that, quite honestly, the vast majority of us can't even contemplate what goes through their brains, how they view the world, their worldview, the wealth and the power, and just how corrupt and how evil that would make some people. The vast majority of us have no idea that, because we've never even experienced that or even remotely dipped our toe into that pool, of wealth and power and whatnot, right? And politics, because that's a huge part of it. I actually think, Paul, the thing is, like, no, they just don't give a shit. They're like, yeah, we know that there's a bunch of you out there who know we just killed him, or, but we don't give a shit. What are you going to do about it? I mean, think about that. I think that's going back into the crazy things. That's part of the crazy thing where, like, yeah, we just did that and we don't give a shit about you guys. We don't care what you guys think. What's that guy's name? That guy, another famous case, DC. He was a young guy. It made the news for a little bit. That one actually got a little bit of attention. I almost screwed it up. I got to be careful. I almost talked about the guy defending himself up in that subway train. But it's the guy from the DC area. He was a consultant, or he was an advisor, whatever. And then he mysteriously died, under those same type of mysterious. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't, but honestly, I have. There are natural situations that happen. It just there's so many, so I want to be careful here.
But hang on, but just like, but but
Right
Hoffa,
after you say something, so I could say tonight. What I'd like to do is I'd like to run for office, but nobody'd vote for me. Probably because I'm not tall enough. But secondarily, I would immediately push the government, the president, whatever, to half the salary of every government employee in Congress. All of them. They are not worth the money they're making. They are rich compared to the majority of the people here. They need to be cut in half at a minimum. I would say 75%, but whatever. I'll take 50. Cut it out. Ban stock investments. Absolutely. They have insider knowledge. They all know that. I know Dan Crenshaw and Jesse Waters are fighting, and I heard that through the Young Turks. Right? What and why did I hear it from the Young Turks? Because YouTube pushes leftist people on me. So I heard it and I watched it and I was like, holy shit, Jesse Waters is wrong here, but Dan Crenshaw's still an idiot. And and the Young Turks are horrible, and YouTube is just completely manipulating I can see it. They're manipulating me, but at least I see it. Do you see it? I'd like to know that. Right? I mean, they're trying left and right. It's so frustrating. I don't know. But
well, and I apologize. I was just actually trying to see if I could find that gentleman's name, but I was just bringing it up because it's another example of. Well, here I'll just do it this way.
Yeah,
a little bit different. So everybody wants, not everybody. I'm sorry. This is how we talk. Just we're human beings. We throw out those. Exaggerations and figure speech. So it's not everybody, but, a lot of people want to talk about January 6th. And by the way, so here's another just crazy times, Stranger Things. The guy who was on film instigating everybody to go into the Capitol building, which was the worst crime in the history of our country, worse than Pearl Harbor, type of event. He just got a year of probation and no jail time because of, I don't know, hardships of being interviewed on 60 Minutes or some shit. So again, it just has to give you pause. Like, hey, if we're jailing people for 20 years who weren't even there, how is this guy who's there and on film multiple times? How is this guy not in jail for like 2 years, 3 years? Like you're doing this to old ladies. And so the point I was again, I'm trying to pull up the name of that guy. It's another example. I can't find it, but going to the January 6th thing, what about the mystery man who was on film planting these quote unquote explosive devices outside the RNC and the DNC? Look, I'm here to tell you, this isn't one area where I've got some personal experience that you're going to have a hard time convincing me.
Go ahead and look. Look. I mean, there's recent information about. The way the government is handling the January 6th people. Yeah,
hang on. Before you go too far away, I just want to get this out there. We can do all this other stuff, and there's 60 cops, at a mall in Florida because there's some kids in a fight. But in DC, our nation's capital, where I'm here to tell you, there's so many surveillance cameras. That's where I did a lot of my training. I can say some of these things. So when you're doing surveillance detection, whatever, there's a lot of training. There's a lot of nuances go to here. Cameras are a huge thing. I'm here to tell you, we got camera footage of the guy on the bench, leaving the pipe bomb at the RNC or the DNC. And then you're trying to tell me to this day, we don't know who that person is. There's no arrests that have been made. I'm calling bullshit on that. Dude, you could so easily you would have gotten that back to a point of intersection where then I would have been like, okay, I know that guy came in at this train station at this time. And then, because I backtracked him out. Then the next thing is, okay, did he take a bus? Did he drive a car? Was he walking? You see what I'm getting at? Like, dude, and if you're an investigator, okay, he took the number 4 bus or he came in from the Northwest. Oh, look, he drives a blue Chevy Tahoe, whatever. You would then have your point of intersection for how you could proceed in your investigation or what direction you would take in that, both in terms of like physically, physical. Well, the number 4 bus runs out of, I'm just making this up, Baltimore. Well, then every stop from Baltimore, and this is what you do when you have resources. That bus, the first stop is here. The last stop is the train station. Every stop in between, from the point of origin to to its culmination, you would be investigating every one of those bus stops. You would be looking for other surveillance cameras, whether it's from grocery stores or street light, or stoplights. Dude, I'm here to tell you, you would throw those resources at it. You just would. You would have that answer. But it's interesting to me that we don't have answers where we have all of the investigative and intelligence capabilities and tools at our disposal. There we suddenly don't want answers. But then, again, in other places, some poor guys out there selling, milk and eggs have the weight of the federal government coming down on them. I just don't buy any of that bullshit. I just don't. I mean, so it's got to be crazy fucking times, ergo that weird light thing I'm using in the background on our podcast. These are the times we're living in when reality and normal procedures or operating procedures, and then normal government responses, or what you would assume to be normal, you're not even getting any of that stuff. So we're in some really crazy times. And I'd kind of distract us a little bit on the Epstein thing because I wanted to talk about that DC bomber, because I'm just not buying that. I've been out there and I've operated in that, trying to be a sneaky motherfucker. That was part of my training. I'm here to tell you, they know exactly how that guy got there, what direction he came from, whether, they could trace that all the way back to a bus station, to a metro stop. They have that information, but they don't want to pursue it. And that to me is just like the Epstein thing. And I think where we're going with this crazy conversation, why is that? And who is it that doesn't want to go there? No, it's the same people who want to deny that, our current quote unquote president received money from foreign countries. Now, well, I'm going to shut up because I could go down that. That kind of pisses me off too. And that brings me into a different category, but I'm going to bring it back over to BCP. Whether you want to address the DC bomber or you want to go back into Epstein.
No, I'll address all that. I think it has to do with the elite that they think we're morons. Now they're going after the January 6th attendees at this point, not those that went in there. So, but they are avoiding. I saw a video today about in LA. We have a pro-Palestinian protest. They're desecrating military a graveyard. That's an absolute disgrace. Now, don't get me wrong.
Hang on. Just real quickly.
Go ahead.
Just real quickly. I guarantee that's against USC. You like 18. Dude, that's probably at some level, a state level or a federal level crime that is elevated beyond the misdemeanor. Like you're defacing property at a certain level or at a certain facility. I guarantee that's got to be above a misdemeanor right there, and not a goddamn. And there's the video showing the guy doing it.
And they, they don't care. I mean, the fact that they're going, and it's already been proven, right, that January 6th, okay, those that broke the law should have been given a trial, period. They weren't. Somewhere. But, those that were there, I mean, come on, they're trying Americans. People get distracted by Donald Trump. Donald Trump's being taken off the ballot because of insurrection. No, he has the money to protect himself. We have people that went to a rally and then a protest that are being put in jail. That it's worse than Gitmo. They may as well put them in Gitmo. They are putting them in jail and not giving them legal representation for years. That is an absolute disgrace. This is absolutely crazy. I can't believe this is happening.
Hey, I just got to throw this up, and so I can say this. So I did work in our detainee program in my initial years. I'm not part of any of those locations, and I really only just did it tangentially as a operations officer, using that as a way to potentially spot assess, recruit people. but I know what that real world is that you're talking about. And so this is not a stretch of my imagination, or a stretch of the imagination. I'm not trying to do this for clickbait when I say this. If you do your own research, don't take my word for it. Just look at who's in jail and for what reasons. And, I thought we believed in due process. And what I'm saying, it has nothing to do with that I'm partial towards the January 6th. Dude, back in I was like, it's a trap. Don't even fucking show up. It is a trap all day long. That was my big thing. And I've got people who can attest to that, and as a matter of fact, we might even be on video someplace saying it. Like, don't do it. It's a trap. But the people
don't commit a crime. But if you don't commit a crime,
But have you really committed a crime if you are being escorted in and there you are walking?
If you break glass,
well, hang on. But you're walking between the red velvet little like things, and and cops are like motioning you. How does that make you guilty? But more importantly, where is the ACLU? Where's the 80? Where are the classic liberals I used to look up to, who are like, dude, that's not due process. I don't give a shit if it's a Democrat or Republican. It's an American citizen, and we have a constitution, and there's that's not due process. And then the last thing I'll just say on this, like, because you mentioned, and this is where I was going with, like, torture and you Gitmo, or you mentioned Guantanamo. Like, dude, we're doing things to, if the reports are even 50% true, the way we're treating January 6th people is much more deleterious or detrimental than we were doing, well, up until Abu Ghraib, right? So after Abu Ghraib, everything kind of changed. But after Abu Ghraib, the way we approached foreign detainees in our global war on terror with kids' glove, we're doing way worse things. There's reports about what the guards, how they're treating people, sleep deprivation, food. I mean, and these are all interrogation things that are designed to tear you down, fear of, love of family, all these different things. I'm not going to get into that kind of, but to your point. So, and because you probably know about this, we're doing things to these Americans who are prisoners. If they've been found guilty, well, then their thing is they do their time. But you're depriving them of sleep. You're not letting them see their lawyers. Their constitutional rights are being infringed upon. And where are all the classic liberals who are like, whoa, time out, man. We don't do this to anybody, regardless of what side they are of the political aisle. What about that?
I don't side with them. Give them a speedy trial. That's their right.
Hey,
why is that happening?
Isn't that why Sam Bankman-Fried? So here's another crazy thing. They just threw away, they just threw away like 6 charges, all under the auspices of what you just said. Oh, well, we've got to give a speedy trial. No, because those other charges would have led to disclosure, and disclosure would have pointed out how many American politicians are on the dime, who have been being bribed. And bringing this all the way back into the Epstein and all this, there's a huge national security issue here. How many of our politicians and bureaucrats are totally corrupted, and who are, what do you want to, look, it's not just honeypot and all that kind of crap, but who are somehow compromised. Hey, dude, you're on the Defense Appropriations Committee. It'd be a shame if you voted for that bill because, hey, maybe that time you were on that one airplane and went to that one place, maybe there's a video that comes up and you might want to cast your vote a different way. Hey, director, or, whatever dude at, whatever defense contractor, 1, 2, or 3, boy, it'd be a shame if you actually went through with this or didn't go through or approve this other thing, because, then this thing will come out. Think about how compromised our political figures are and all this crazy thing. And this is where I'm ending it. And we need to do this as a live stream, but this is where I'm ending it. Because to me, all that keeps coming back to, and I'll admit, it's my bias. I look at it like, how would you manipulate people? How would you, do, again, that's, if you want your country to survive, you have to have information. You just do. So it just is, whether you like it or not, you hate it. Gathering intelligence, there's messy sides to it, and there's, more. There's actually some more Alistair, who's the guy who wrote Ian Fleming. There's a little bit more of an Ian Fleming side to it, but a lot of it is pretty shitty work. I mean, it just is. But you look at these crazy things we've just talked about, and for me, one of the common denominators I just keep seeing is national security, and how I could use those environments or those situations to manipulate people and create the environment I wanted. But that's war fighting. I don't want to fight on your terms. I want you to fight on my terms. So from a war fighting perspective to an intelligence perspective, which, you know, then aids and flows into the war fighting and the politics and the diplomacy, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my last thing there, Paul. I think there's a huge national security side of all of these crazy ass stories that we're missing and we're not talking about as a society, as a people. And to include, to go back to J6, and I'll just do my last plug, I'll turn it over to you. Dude, due process. I don't give a fuck if you were a BLM and Tifa guy or you're a J6 you know, out in front of a, a pro-life person. I don't care where you, dude, the law is the law and it's got to apply to everybody. And we keep hearing these platitudes of like, well, Donald Trump's got to go to jail because the law, well, you haven't found him guilty and proven him guilty of anything yet. That's not how the law works. You don't get to just simply say, well, everybody's, you know, it applies to everybody, but just not me and my wealthy donor class or the ones who are really pulling, you know, the puppet masters pulling the string. All right. That's my last comment. Maybe the blue light behind me kind of mellowed it out a little bit. Now it's starting to get a little bit more, you know, tumultuous. And now it matches the color of our backdrop, the Eye of fucking Sauron. Mordor. Dude, we're living in Mordor, Paul. What do you got?
I know. And one thing, my final point is when we get to the point of, and we were here years ago, accusations equal convictions. And, you know, we can't do that. So,
you got to believe all women, Paul. Well, what if they're liars?
Yeah.
And what if the evidence suggests otherwise?
No, that's
you
one.
got to believe them.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Me Too movement. Some of it was legit, and some of it was, you know, I accuse you of this.
The reason I said it is because it only has to be believed in part of our cult and our ideology when it's my side that makes the allegation. When the other side, you know, the political right, you know, and which isn't even Republican anymore, in my opinion, but just like when a conservative says something, then those standards no longer apply. Like, oh no, that only applies when we say it. No, not when, you know, not when Al Sharpton did this, or, you know, or Nancy Pelosi's husband did that. Oh no, let's just bury that. Then it doesn't apply.
Yeah, and this is not Paul's opinion. This is a reality. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have an opinion on this. Rape used to have the death penalty applied to it. Why did they pull it? Because of false accusations. And it sucks because it does deserve the death penalty. But, you know, now we live in a world like that. But, you know, whatever. You could have the ACLU, which is the ALCLU, which is American liberal. And I hate to use liberal, but because they're leftists. I should say leftists.
Yep.
Civil Liberties Union. They don't defend us.
Quick side note. Can we actually get America to stop using liberal to define the left? Like, I actually kind of consider myself a classic liberal. I'm like a fiscally conservative liberal. I don't give a shit what you do in your house, right? Like, so I'm kind of getting sick of people like, oh, you liberals. I'm like, whoa, no. You mean leftists or communists? They are not liberals, right? You know, I believe in a small government and a lot of fucking freedom. That's what our Constitution says. That was the classic liberal. So I just had to interject there because I didn't want to get thrown in the bus with, you know, with communists and shit.
No. And I agree. I am a classical liberal in 99%, right? There might be something there that I don't think nobody fits. Why do we have to label ourselves?
Right.
You're a liberal, you're a conservative, or you're an independent. Bullshit.
How about you're an American?
I'm appalled. And you better call me if you want to know my opinion, because I cannot tell you where I fit. And you know, so I agree with you there. I agree with you 90%, 1%, you know, whatever. That's the way we used to be. And we just can't do this kind of stuff anymore. And I just think I want to make my last point. On January 6th, I just feel that you do not have to defend those people, but I know people that were there. They did not participate in any kind of thing. They were not. I saw it live where the cops were opening the gates for them. That's why I thought, what the F am I looking at? They're letting them in. And then they said this is the worst thing ever. And then I see, all these other riots or people blocking streets and stuff. It's way worse than this.
I just got to throw one more thing out there just real quickly. So again, there's crazy things going on, but we should all be using our that little nub between our two shoulders and all the gray matter encapsulated within it. Dude, look at the use, the authorized use of lethal force, whether it's in the Capitol Police Department. Look at their regulations are. Look at it within like the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth. Look, I can do that in the state of Minnesota. That officer was not justified in shooting Ashley Babbitt. By Minnesota. I'm not
arrested. She was not armed. She should have been arrested.
No, that's what I'm saying. There was no authorized use of lethal force under those circumstances. Period. Yeah, where they break into. Yeah, okay, yeah. There's a little bit of that, but it didn't mean a ladder of escalation. There was no force being. There was so many.
Shot her in the head.
Well, I think
that's not even. Yeah. None of and he faced. He was not only did he not face consequences.
Yep,
he was propped up as a savior of democracy, which we do not have. Democracy is mob rule. We are a republic. End of story.
Thank you. And that's another thing I'm getting sick of. And you see that happening in the realm of crazy things. Dude, look at how much they keep badgering democracy. No one says constitutional republic, which is a form of democracy, but we are not an absolute democracy. Absolute democracy is Plato's The Republic. That's like, you might as well be an ant in a colony. It's mob rule. That is not who we are. That is not what our founding fathers. God, I wish Jared Redbeard was here. That guy would be freaking going high and right now about that. But no, you're absolutely right. And sorry, I sidetracked this. I'm just trying to point out that I live in Minnesota. Under Minnesota statutes, there's no way that guy was justified in the use of deadly force. He doesn't meet any of the criteria. It would not have passed muster in a real court of law. So I guess the thing I'm also leaving everyone on is, do you think we even have a system of law, or is it a two-tiered system of justice like everybody talks about? But Paul, I want to come back to you as we're kind of going in closing, give you that one last. I kind of took us on a little bit of a tangent, but I wanted to give you a chance to finish it up over there on your last point. The whole Epstein thing at the very end, perspectives, and then I got a little surprise on the outro. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no. I think I'm pretty much closed out on the Epstein issue. I do believe that it's important to Republicans, because Democrats won't do it. And again, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. We need the Republicans to push to release all this information. And the problem we have is the entire swamp, to use Trump's term, it's going to block it. They're just going to block it. And if you get somebody in there might have no interest other than Trump, I don't know. I don't think you'll get it. I don't think you're going to get one. They're going to be. I saw it with. I'm sorry for Florida, since he did a great job there. Ron DeSantis went from this extremely conservative, and that's not a bad thing, right, to somebody that is hired the swamp to support him. And I can't support that. I don't support anybody at this point. I mean, I may as well run myself. I'm going to run and you vote for me. But, that's an absolute joke. But, I do think, I do believe because of the zealots You got to vote for Trump if you don't want the Democrats to win. And I think a precursor to a future episode, a new one, recent future episode, will be Michelle Obama and her breakdown over Trump potentially winning shows the Democrats' hand. I believe that to be true. But I'll leave that for the next time. And I'm done, Mark. I'm good. Or if I'm still here.
No, sorry.
I think,
I'm trying to be better where I actually have the mic, where I had the mic muted there for a second.
Yeah.
As opposed to Mark, your mic is muted. Mark, your mic is muted, which is
sorry.
But hey, but to the point where you just said about the Michelle Obama and maybe that has to be part of the live stream that we're thinking of doing when it comes to also the whole pharmaceutical and SSRIs and all that, those other kind of questions, because I actually kind of like that a lot, because the other point would just be, it's the same thing. Nikki Haley, like all of the BS machinations that are going on right now, and how much none of them make any sense on any level. Like, suddenly now, and again, and it's almost like, just like if you're working with a focus group, doing a movie or a new product, it's almost like you're throwing it out there just to see how it resonates and how it's going to go over with people. Like, oh yeah, Michelle Obama talking about Donald Trump is the worst thing since Hitler, and we're all going to die if he's elected. But we shouldn't go into it now, but it's also the language that's used. And if you look at what's happened predominantly through the left on the last 2 years, but even some Republicans, because by not saying something, you're actually saying something, right? So you see this language. To me, that, again, tinfoil hat, all the crazy things that are going on. The crazy thing, that Lindsey Graham interview from a week ago, to sit there and to pretend you don't know anything about the Epstein client list or whatever the case is. Like, oh, I'm busy doing like government shit. Like, then you're not doing the government shit that we elected you to do. Then you need to be fucking fired. Plain and simple, right? So I think we have a lot of that kind of crap going on, but I think we should, as you said, we should probably save that for a live stream, just because we'll be able to go in so many other directions at that point. Yeah.
I think we're good. I think I think we're ready for your surprise.
Okay, all right, you ready with my surprise? Here we go. So, boys and girls, Redbeard or Blackbeard and I, but BCP, Better Call Paul. We try to hold down the fort here tonight. Our good friend, Jeremy, Redbeard, and not everything is the bullshit of the last 3 years. Sometimes we still just get colds and we just still get sick. I don't know. It happens a lot in the wintertime, but whatever. But he's not here with us. He wasn't able to chime in. We were kind of holding out a candle, but I've got a replacement, which I really hope I could. I was really hoping I would have found a funny little thing to throw in there, but I don't. So what I got is the replacement because there's no replacing Redbeard. So I'm going to bring up Redbeard. Oops, I did that wrong. I'm going to bring up Redbeard from. Why is that not? Oh, here we go. I'm going to bring up Redbeard from one of our last videos, and Redbeard's going to take us out. And I think I'm getting there. Here we go. All right, boys and girls, let me just come over here. Make sure. Yep. Okay, I got it. Now back over here. Here's Redbeard on the outro. Go ahead, Redbeard.
Look, we really appreciate everybody that comes in, watches the videos. Like I said, as much as we love to have you here, we would much rather have you going out, learning, and taking what you learn to diffuse that information for the force of good. And Paul, we really, really appreciate having you back. And I really have to say that it's going to be really nice being able to have you on board a lot more. I'm looking forward to it because you're really going to be fundamental in helping us move forward. And I really appreciate you, taking that opportunity, honestly. Like it really is appreciated. So on that note,
Redbeard, did you see what I just did? Is that why you're laughing?
I saw you take your hat off, but
you were talking about Paul, and I was like, yeah, because you're bald and you got to do it. All right, I just got to come back to us. So obviously we were having a little bit too much fun at the end of the last episode. So I thought I was actually at the right point, but now we are. So, okay, let me just keep playing.
Well, look, everybody, look, the flame of liberty shall not and will not ever be extinguished so long as there are good people willing to support and defend it. And that means each and every one of you, like Mark always says, you are the resistance. And when it comes down to it, we have to remember that liberty is an ongoing battle. It doesn't stop with one generation or start with another generation. It continues with every single generation. We have to continue the fight because we owe it not only to ourselves, but to our future posterity. So,
and that, everybody behind us, everybody who fought behind
absolutely.
us. Yeah.
So look, I believe in you guys, and I believe in Mark, and I believe in Paul. And more importantly, like, I believe in myself and what I'm capable of doing. And I have the hope that we are able to make the change that we absolutely need. So
amen, Jeremy.
I'm a hopeful person. And on that note, I want to send this out on a message of hope. We can make this difference and we can make the change.
There it is right there. We can make a difference. We can make a change. That was Jeremy, from his sick bed, wishing us all the best and reminding us all that we're all in this fight together. And it isn't Republican or Democrat. If you're my humble opinion, I can't speak for Jeremy, but like if you're in that Republican Democrat mindset, I hate to say it, you're being played. The vast majority of Republicans aren't conservative. They're just Democrats. It's one party. So you either believe in freedom and then you don't give a shit. Again, Paul and I just said this, BCP and I were talking, we both consider ourselves classic liberals. I kind of I'm a fiscally conservative individual. Our government shouldn't be like how much we're in debt. It makes me want to throw up how we've lost our way. But at the end of the day, I don't care what you do in your bedroom, but I don't have to pay for that. And I don't want you telling my kids what you do in your bedroom. You see what I'm saying? Do what you want to do as long as it doesn't negatively, affect me, economically or physically. Right. And that's kind of how our system is set up. Well, I don't know, Paul, isn't that what a classic liberal used to be? Smaller government, less government, no more Lindsey Grahams and all that kind of crap. And let's get back to actually making this a good country for everybody who lives here, who's an American citizen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have nothing more to add other than I agree 100%.
Okay. Well, then on that note, then we're going to take us out. You good with that? Good
with that.
I don't know if I like the light thing I did here tonight. Yeah, we're just trying something. Leave a comment. Mark, the lighting was stupid. Yeah, it probably was. But I actually like that color because it matches that background screen. So anyway, hey, everybody, on a serious note, thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast. Please leave comments, suggestions. We are approaching 2024 from a very serious perspective. We want to be much better. We want to be a little bit more focused. So give us your pointers. Hey, you guys do better here, or more of this, more cowbells. And whoever says, Paul, do you know what that reference was? More
I know what you're talking.
Okay. Yeah. I hope people got that. I hope people got that. All right. On that note, we're going to end the recording. Wish everybody a great night and hopefully a great 2024. All right, Paul.
Okay. See ya.